We've had to rejig a few things, and that means that you get your Promenade review a little bit earlier. A thanks to Holden Green for writing this one. With the Nintendo Switch being in its 7th year of life, it's been home to an overwhelming number of outstanding side-scrolling platform games, and it's getting increasingly difficult for newer ones to stand out. I can't tell you the amount of times I've booted up my eShop to look at the latest games and struggled to get excited, especially within this genre, but I was persuaded to give Promenade a go. I have to be honest, I wasn't really expecting much, but my word, am I glad I decided to press the download button. A thanks to the publisher for the review copy. Why might you want to consider jumping on this one? Well, let's find out. Promenade is a 2D platformer, but at its heart, it plays more like a 3D one. It's like your classic collectathons that were popular in the late 90s. The likes of Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie and Spyro are very much in the essence of this one's DNA, despite the different dimension. Let's start with the premise though. You begin the game by falling down a large cavern and plunging into the deep water. Before drowning, you're saved by a cute, squidgy octopus-like creature who quickly becomes your best pal as you recover. You make a den, eat roast marshmallows, and even do a cave painting together. Lovely. The story's told entirely without dialogue, and ignoring the menus and the other titles of the challenges, there's not a single word or instruction in the game. Everything is conveyed visually, which is cool for the universal accessibility. It makes the story less interesting overall though, but it's really impressive how they actually managed it. In a nutshell though, the great elevator is constantly being messed with and made inoperable by a mysterious and mischievous being. The goal, or your goal at least, is to chase him and fix the mess he creates. Every time you make it to a new level on the elevator, you'll see him sneakily take away the next cogs, and you have to go out and collect them. At this point, I'd like to say that it's a lift, yeah, not an elevator. As I said, the story does suffer from a lack of dialogue and character. First things first, you need to collect those cogs in order to get that lift working for the next level. Each of the worlds has a set amount of them, which you'll pick up doing various tasks, often of the charming variety, whether making 2 snails fall in love, cooking a favourite dish for an NPC, or finishing off a painting for an artist. There is a wonderful variety of them on offer. Each world has a lot too. You'll grab a little book, which will give you the name of each one present, and it can give you a little hint about what it wants you to do. These are essentially like the star names in Mario 64. Some of them are a little on the nose, and others offer quite a bit more head-scratching mystery. What Promenade does really well is excellent signposting. Without going over the top, it ushers you nicely to the different cog pieces while still feeling like you're using your own intuition. That's great design, and it's nice just wandering around looking for them. It was exciting and adventurous, which in my old age I do struggle to feel these days. Maybe that's just me being old and grumpy, but if that's the case, this one might actually be the cure for that. This exploration-based gameplay isn't the only thing Promenade has up its sleeve. It's also partial to some really sweet platforming challenges, which I'll go into in a minute. It stretches its legs in terms of gameplay, as you learn the ropes and acquire new skills like hanging onto hooks, and it even offers up some speedrunning potential as you dash through at quite a blistering pace. Then there are the puzzle segments, some really nice logic puzzles using energy lines and various other mechanics. There's a lot of variety, and it's always mixing things up to create a really fresh experience, while still feeling focused. It all just comes together nicely. Now, story and gameplay combined, they score 16 out of 20, but the controls, well, they're really spot on. It's taken inspiration from a few classics, namely the Klonoa series, Donkey Kong Country, to name just a couple. But where Klonoa comes in is due to the way that your little octopus buddy can throw out to grab the enemies, at which point you can double jump afterwards. Firstly, your normal jump, then a second jump by lobbing the poor sucker downwards to propel yourselves in the opposite direction. You've got this rolling jump, very similar to Donkey Kong Country, where you can use the roll move off the edge of a platform, but can slightly defy the laws of physics by still doing a jump after you're plummeting to your death. It allows you to jump over gaps that your normal wimpy one wouldn't allow, and gives you that feeling of freedom that you only find in the best platformers. They're super tight, almost perfect. The only issue that I had was using the momentum feature when jumping from zipline to zipline. The game can be demanding with some of the extra challenges, but it didn't feel wholly consistent to me. Being able to fling yourself across large gaps was exhilarating, but I just wish it was a little more forgiving and intuitive in that area. That's genuinely the only downside of the controls. Now, despite this, it does bring together the gameplay and controls quite fantastically, making you do some really technical and accomplished things, especially in its challenging worlds. I don't really know what to call these, to be honest, but occasionally you'll pop into a portal and you'll have a challenge or training room where it teaches you one specific feature of the controls and then stretches it out so that you then know that like the back of your hand. Like all of the different ways you can actually throw enemies, which through teaching they eventually have you performing some crazy moves with. While initially it looked and felt a little slow and sluggish in terms of movement, it doesn't actually feel slow. The weight is tangible and you always know your limits for jumping around and moving in the world. Controls score 18 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, the presentation, the performance and the audio, well, I'm sure you've seen, it's absolutely adorable. It's bright, colourful and filled with personality. Each world brings something new. Perhaps a little generic at times, or a couple of things that, let's be honest, we've seen before, but the designs pull it through. Blasting around in an oddly shaped rocket is so childlike and it makes you feel like a kid again, but there's some really nice attention to detail. Like pausing the game causes the background of it to become a watercolour picture of sorts. It was half tempting to just pause all over the place just to see what everything looked like in watercolour. I think they did a great job with this, and yeah, I think it's beautiful. Now the performance is a rock solid 60 FPS, and I didn't notice any drops if there were any. However, the game did crash to the Switch home screen one time, and that was when I was exiting out to the main menu, so it couldn't really have happened at a better time. Still worth noting. With all of this said, visually, there are, as I say, a few things which we've seen done before, and perhaps a little more variety in certain areas could be beneficial. Visuals and performance, they score 16 out of 20. It's got a really nice soundtrack, just take a listen. It fits perfectly in my opinion. It's another subjective area, but I enjoyed it at least, even if a couple of the audio loops were a little shorter than I would have liked. Sound and audio scores 16 out of 20. Onto value, well, Promenade, its standard price is £22.49, but there was a 10% launch discount. That's at the upper end of indie platformers, but I really do think that it shows its quality enough to be just about worth it. I know there are people in the comments saying the price of the game does not affect its value. Well, I do think it does, especially in relation to other ones in the same genre that are equally as good. But then you compare this to a first-party title in the same genre and you're looking at about half the price. There's a lot of polish and attention to detail here that goes a little bit further than other games. It feels like a properly finished product. Overall, I give value 16 out of 20. And it does have a physical version, but that's only in Europe. There's no North American physical version, sadly. Overall, Promenade is a fantastic platformer. It mixes different inspirations together to create a wonderful time that's somehow both relaxing and exhilarating. It's like reading a book while sunbathing, except you're on the back of a jet ski. Both peaceful and challenging, and controls excellently. Worthy of a pickup, and if you find it on a deep sale, almost an essential. A thanks to Holden for writing that one. Nice one, mate. Hopefully all of you get the information you need. This does look right up my alley. Let me know in the comments what you think, and as always, just a big thanks to our Patreons, our members, and for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!